Hello and welcome to another installment of the Untitled Mike Ashmore podcast. As you can tell, it's maybe a little bit windy out here, but the only thing that really blows is that there's no baseball to watch, unfortunately. And one of my favorite guys to watch over the past couple years in Somerset has been Rick Teasley. Rick is our guest here on the 4th episode of the Untitled Mike Ashmore podcast. And we get into a lot of things in this conversation. I'm really excited to bring it to you. So without further ado, my chat with the one, the only, Rick Teasley. Hey, Tease, welcome to the pod. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. It seems like it's been a time-honored tradition to have the next guest on the podcast kind of address some things that maybe were said on the last installment. And I don't know if you listened to Dave Kubiak talking about your musical tastes on the day of a start. I guess, what have you got to say for yourself, my friend?
I mean, I heard Kubiak. He brought me up a couple of times, and I mean, we've known each other a long time, and he definitely we went back and forth about each other's music selection on a daily basis. But yeah, I went with the EDM most of the time on my start days. I like to keep the entire locker room kind of bumping, get everybody in a good mood, and just some consistent music, get everybody all happy and ready to go on bump day. So Kubiak always let me hear it every day, but hey, it was my day. It's my start day, so I was going to play my music.
Do you ordinarily listen to EDM? Because I listen to a lot of stuff when I'm working out and kind of getting, somewhat pumped up to do stuff that I ordinarily would never listen to otherwise. Is that pretty normal for you, or is that only something that you're kind of listening to get yourself fired up for a game day start, or what's the deal?
Mostly on game days. I listen to it here and there in the off season and stuff. It's a nice day outside and we're driving around maybe, but I listen to a lot of country normally, but start days, the EDM or the trap music, and then as closer to game time, it almost gets to more of a dubstep feel, just to kind of get in the mindset of focused and kind of get in that angry mode that I have to be in to pitch. Yeah. So, yeah.
Is it possible to listen to country before a start and get yourself fired up?
Not fired up. No, I listen. I mix it in. But once we're about an hour away from game time, I really kind of turn on some stuff that I almost never listen to. Just to kind of get in that alter ego mindset for the start. Okay. So get into the regular baseball stuff here for a while. I dug up your old college bio, which was back in the day, I suppose, back at St. Leo. You said you grew up a Marlins fan, is that right? Oh, yeah, lifelong Marlins fan. Used to watch every single game on TV every single night, every inning of every game. That 2003 World Series title, I watched every game that season, so diehard Miami Marlins now, but Florida Marlins back then.
Okay. I guess it was just the proximity to where they were based, or was there something more of a bigger story behind that?
No, yeah, it was about 2 hours away on with traffic, 2 hours from the stadium there. The old pro player Joe Robbie. It's had a million names as well.
Yes.
So we me and Dad would make maybe a trip once a month to an actual game, and then watch the rest on TV. And it was just something I loved doing. I knew every player and all the statistics, and I'd play obviously like the MVP baseball video games, and I just followed it heavily.
I gotcha. No, I'd been there a couple of times. I'd been there back when they were the Florida Marlins as well, and kind of when I was younger, I'd go to that stadium and go, "Wow, this was awesome." And now looking back on it, I'm like, "Wow, this place sucked." Did it feel that way at the time when you were going? You were like, "Wow, this place is a palace," and did you kind of reflect on it later and go, "You know what? Maybe this place is not so great after all"?
Well, I thought it was awesome just because I got to all the times watching it on TV. So now you're actually there.
Yeah.
It was cool for me. Quick story. I got to see Miguel Cabrera's first career home run. I was in attendance for it.
That's cool.
So he made a pinch hit appearance in the 10th inning and hit a walk-off home run. So I was one of maybe 1,200 people in that park when that happened. Yeah. So not a whole lot of people can say they witnessed Miguel Cabrera's first career home run.
Yeah, I believe it was a small number for sure. But I brought up St. Leo. I guess, it's a D2 school, a smaller school. I guess Bob Tewksbury is probably the biggest name who got out of there. There's a kid named Liam O'Sullivan who got out of there as well. We'll get to him in a bit. But how did you end up there?
Oh, man, St. Leo. So the pitching coach at St. Leo actually played American Legion in high school baseball for my stepdad. And they always stayed in close touch. Now, coming through high school, I wasn't heavily recruited. I went to a few camps, but nothing really came of it. I was kind of expecting to play first base because I was a good hitter, but I had no speed and I was left-handed, so I started pitching my senior year. And didn't really have a whole lot of options. I ended up going to Northwood University down in West Palm, which is now Kaiser University. And I was an NAIA and played a year there, but I just didn't see myself getting any, scouting there, or it was just kind of a smaller school feel. So I transferred to a bigger D2, which, when I went to those workouts and those tryouts, a lot of teams were saying, we don't see you as a scholarship guy. So me being me, wrote down the name of every school, and very many of them ended up being in that same conference with St. Leo. So I was going to be able to pitch against all those teams.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a D2. It's still not a place that's going to get scouted as much as a lot of other places in the area would. I guess, was there some sort of stories behind kind of how you got seen and how you ended up getting drafted?
Yeah, that conference, particularly D2, probably the best Division II conference in the country. It's usually whoever wins that conference usually wins a national championship. And with University of Tampa being in that conference, there are a bunch of D1 transfers that go there, and the scout, that's where Tino Martinez went. There's all these place of the Rays. I can't remember his name. Kiermaier.
Okay.
So he went there. So guys like that, and you play against Tampa. I always thought playing against those teams might give me a chance to be seen by scouts, and it just so happened my junior year I had a great year, but I wasn't throwing very hard. I went and played summer ball in the Coastal Plain League for Coach Bob Smith, who he actually coached Verlander back in the high school days, and great coach, former scout. He taught me the cutter, he taught me a good changeup, and my senior year, he taught me, kind of use my legs and get a little more velocity, and working with him and the pitching coach Strickland at St. Leo to just polish mechanics, and then got the velocity a little higher. And senior year, I pitched against Tampa when there were 25 scouts there to watch their starting pitcher throw, and I threw 8 shutout innings. I think I gave up 1 hit, and they ended up winning the national championship that year. So it was right after that game where all the letters from the scouts started pouring in and questionnaires, and I really started to get some attention.
Yeah. Rays draft you, 23rd round, 2013. I guess what's kind of going through your mind when you get that call?
Oh, it was insane. It was like time slowed down. I actually got a phone call from my third baseman in college. I was sitting there watching a live feed on my iPad and just stressing out, freaking out. Saw some friends get drafted, shot him a quick congrats on text, and then my phone rang, and it was my third baseman, Dylan. And I was like, man, why is he calling me right now? As soon as I answer the phone, he screams congrats. And that was when somebody stood up with the iPad, and 23rd round Tampa Bay Rays. And that was it. That's how I found out.
Wow.
So he was listening to it live. He must have been listening to it, and we were just watching the names roll through. So pretty crazy moment. The whole family was around, and a couple of friends, and it was awesome day.
So I feel like it's been kind of a common theme on the pod so far to be talking to guys who got a chance in the Rays system and put up good numbers, but things didn't work out for one reason or another. I guess what's kind of your story there? Because again, I look at the numbers and it's like this guy should have got more of an opportunity than he did.
Yeah, I thought so at the time too. Being left-handed, and they called me in. Honestly, when they called me in to release me, I thought I was being pranked, and it wasn't really until I looked. They brought me through. I had to walk past my locker to get to the office where they were telling me I was going, and the whole time I was laughing until I looked and my locker was packed up, and I went, "Wow, they're actually releasing me."
Huh.
So I thought, no big deal. I'll get a call later today from somebody else that'll sign me, and I'll be right back. I'll just be with a different team. The phone call I got was Chicago area code, and I thought it was the Cubs or something. It was Southern Illinois Miners, Mike Pinto, who called and gave me my first chance in independent ball. So that was it. Yeah, I just didn't really get much of an explanation when I got released. And to this day, I guess it's because I wasn't throwing 95, but not pumped about it. But it's just part of it. I've seen it happen to a lot of guys. So.
Yeah, obviously you're not thinking about independent ball at any point in time when you're in the Rays system. Did you know anything about indie ball at that time when that phone call came? Did you know what you were getting into, and you eventually did kind of sign on with Southern Illinois?
I had no idea. I thought indie ball was for college guys who kind of played out their eligibility and wanted to play a little bit longer. I had no idea the extent of what all went into indie ball, and how probably the team that I played for in Southern Illinois would have beaten any of the teams I played for in the Rays system. And then, playing 3 years there and moving on to the Atlantic League, you start playing with guys that were in the big leagues, and it's just crazy. People have no idea the indie ball talent, and like I said, a lot of these teams would outplay a lot of the affiliated ball teams that are currently going on.
Yeah. I do want to ask you about the no-hitter in Southern Illinois. 7-inning game, 82 pitches. Shoved it up their ass, for lack of a better way of putting it. I always have a way with words, as you know. But I guess how much that you feel like that maybe kind of puts you on the map in a bit of a broader sense, getting to accomplish something like that?
Oh, that was awesome, and that was actually my first year in Southern Illinois. So
Yeah.
I came in and I started to realize the talent that was around, and I said, wow, this isn't a joke. I better really work my butt off. So I think I threw 4 games, and I think I gave up a run in 4 games. So I was throwing really well. Then I threw a no-hitter, and it was like, oh man, I'm out of here. Like that's an accomplishment I didn't think I was going to accomplish in my career, especially in professional baseball. So, throw the no-hitter, and you definitely think you're out of there. I think Kubiak brought it up, like you better keep your mind on one thing, and that's your next outing, or you get beat up a little bit. So that game was awesome, but the next few didn't go so well, and that strapped me in for a full year in Southern Illinois and turned into 3. But pitched very well there, very happy with how things went. The no-hitter really kicked it off, and really enjoyed my 3 years there for sure.
Yeah, no, the Rays kind of used you out of the pen. Southern Illinois, you kind of got back to starting. I guess how much of an adjustment was that? Obviously, you were a starter in college as well. How much kind of was an adjustment was that to go back and forth between those things and finally settle on getting to be a starter again?
Well, I don't love pitching in relief. The thing that I do love about it is you just kind of go in there and throw everything you've got at guys. So I find relieving to be easy once you're actually doing it. I think it's the day-to-day process that makes relieving difficult. Not knowing when you're pitching and maybe having to throw back-to-back days, that's the most difficult part about relieving for me. But the good part about relieving is you don't have to face the lineup but maybe one time, So I figured out early I could do both. I didn't want to relieve. That's obviously not what I want to do, but I can. And I've done it in my career here and there to help however I can. But the adjustment, it's not crazy once you're in the moment and you're competing. The adjustment is more so just, like I said, outing to outing, finding a routine, and it's all just through trial and error, what works and what doesn't. Try not to work too hard between outings if you're in the bullpen.
Yeah, you mentioned getting to Somerset in 2017. What was the process like of getting you over there? How much do you know about the Atlantic League? I guess was there a connection that kind of got you over there? What ended up getting you over to the Patriots?
Well, when I was in Southern Illinois, I got a friend request from John Hunton, and he knows everybody in baseball. I think he's friends with everybody on Facebook.
Yeah.
But he had asked me about a certain guy. I think he has contacts on certain teams, MLB teams, that might have been looking for a younger guy. So he'd asked me about a couple guys while I was in Southern Illinois, and that was pretty much the extent of our conversations. Now, after 3 years in Southern Illinois and not going anywhere afterwards, it's kind of like, okay, well, I need to move on, either American Association or the Atlantic League, and reached out to a couple association teams and didn't really get much back. So reached out to John, and I said, hey, man, is there, if you guys don't have room, I understand. I'm not really a guy that's supposed to be in the Atlantic League right now, but what do you have for advice? And he said, you're a free agent, you're not going back to Southern Illinois? I said, nah, I need to move on. And he said, we'll sign you right now. I said, what? So then I called up Kubiak, and I said, hey, Kubiak, what do you know about Somerset? He goes, I'm trying to go to Somerset. That's the best place to go in the entire league. You need to go to Somerset. If he's got a contract for you, go. So that was that. Just signed the contract and, packed my bags and headed up there in April.
Wow. So I remember on paper that rotation and that pitching staff was pretty stacked at the time. Are you going into that opportunity thinking, and I asked Kubiak the same thing with Bridgeport, are you kind of going into that opportunity thinking like, I have to really earn a spot on this roster?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I knew that the guys at the experience level, and I remember it was like, I think Somerset did it was like five more days, 5 MLB signings. I remember they did that in 2017, right before the season, right before spring training. And they announced 5 signings, and it seemed like 4 of them were left-handed pitchers. And I remember going, oh, man, well, I better pack light because there's a chance I could throw well in spring training and not make the team, So went up there with that mindset, like work your butt off and, try to be the best you can, just do what you've always done. And I threw my first bullpen to Adam Donahue. He caught me, and Jody was right there. I was a little nervous, but I just trying to be precise, just tried to locate everything. And I remember Donnie took his mask off afterwards, and I overheard him talking to Jody Brett about, man, it's going to be tough to beat that one. And I guess they were saying best bullpen of the spring or best first bullpen of the spring. So that was when I knew, and he kind of took me under his wing and was like, look, you're going to throw to me. Just hit the glove, do what you did in that bullpen, and I'm telling you, you'll be fine in this league as long as you do exactly what you did in that bullpen. So really, I just kind of listened to him and spoke to older guys, took advice when I could, and took it from there.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about it now, but if things didn't work out in Somerset and the numbers game kind of did catch up to you, was there a backup plan?
I didn't really I really didn't arrange for a backup plan. I guess that's the first time I've ever thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
If that wouldn't have worked out, I don't know. I'm not a big backup plan person. I said that when I was leaving college. My plan was to play play professional baseball. Everybody's like, okay, so what are you going to do if that doesn't happen? And I was like, oh, it's going to happen. There's always my plan. There was no backup plan. So I guess I would have just taken it from there. I would have, before I left town, I guess I would have tried to call some surrounding teams, maybe Can-Am League or American Association, but I really didn't really have a backup plan there.
Yeah, so obviously you didn't need the backup plan, pitched your ass off in Somerset. Did you exceed your own expectations there? Because you were coming off kind of a so-so year in the Frontier League. You get to the Atlantic League, and that's kind of universally regarded as a bit of a step up in indie ball. Did you pitch even better than you thought you might be able to when you got there?
I think the surprise came early on when Donnie proved to be right. Like he said, we're going to throw guys like you've never pitched before. You're going to pitch inside. And if you locate that, I'm telling you, you're going to get these guys out. And once I saw that working, then I just flicked the switch. But yes, immediately it was like I had hoped to pitch well. I had hoped to compete and help the team win. I didn't expect to do what I did, and I ended up getting signed and go off to Taiwan and all that stuff. But once I realized I could get guys out there, it was just okay. Well, I belong here, and this is. It can go anywhere from here.
Yeah. You signed in Taiwan, like you mentioned. Was there a little bit of a surprise on your end? I know this is something kind of you and I talked about even way back then, too. Was there some surprise on your end that maybe you didn't get more of an opportunity in affiliate baseball with everything that you'd done?
Absolutely, yeah. It's to this day, I think I signed my last press release, I read through, and it just kind of went through accomplishments through the professional career, and I'm like, man, it's awesome. I'm so happy that I've been able to accomplish so much, but the fact that all that has happened and I haven't received a single phone call, like Kubiak was talking about, is a little discouraging. You can't really worry about it too much because it's really completely out of our control.
Sure.
But it's very surprising that, consistency is the biggest thing, showing that you're consistent and if it's not going to happen with MLB, it's just not going to happen there. But like I say, I'm still playing ball so that I can try and get these overseas jobs and, keep enjoying it as long as I can because I'm not going to be able to do this for forever.
Yeah, it seemed like you really embraced that opportunity and that whole experience in Taiwan. Just kind of talk me through that and what that was like. Kubiak kind of talked about how, nerve-wracking that was to not really, know the language and be able to talk to a lot of guys. What was it like for you?
It was very similar when he mentioned it. He said it's like being on Mars or on a different planet. It's crazy. It's just very different. Obviously, the city life and the way that they do things is similar, but just the whole culture, the food, the way things run. There's like the night markets where they've got all these foods and different things that they sell. It's a crazy atmosphere, and the language, not knowing anything, and how much different you look. You're kind of taller, especially Kubiak, I'm sure. And everybody looks at you like you don't blend in there at all. So it was a different experience. And then going up and starting to pitch on TV there, it was wild to see what that's like. Not only in the moment with all that's going on in those games, the music, the noise. It's like pitching in those games like a circus. And then off the field, wherever you go to eat, people know who you are, and you're just it's that life. It's a different lifestyle. It's something that I had never experienced before, and it was definitely cool to experience.
Yeah, you had a bit of a different look back then as well with the long hair. Did the fans kind of embrace you a little bit more because of that, do you think, as well?
Yeah, they loved any time that I'd keep seeing the same symbols on like comments, or people would say things to me on social media or whatever, and I learned to stop reading that stuff pretty early on, but the first few days it all kept translating to flowing, and that was they were talking about the hair, because I didn't know what they were talking about at first. I'm like, that's just a mistranslation, and my translator Howard, he's the one that pointed out. He goes, no, they're talking about your hair, how it's wavy and flowing. I said, oh, okay, that's what it is. So they mentioned it a lot out there.
Yeah, come back to Somerset in 18. The hair goes. I guess what is kind of the story behind that?
Well, I had long hair longer than I thought I would. It was just something I wanted to do. The Rays had rules against facial hair and long hair, so when I got released by the Rays, I started growing my hair out. Never done it in my life before, but it was almost like a rebellion against what I had to deal with there.
Sure.
With them, with all the rules. So grew the hair out, and I was pitching well for 4 years. So I wasn't going to cut it. I was just going to keep it going. And then I remember you'd see certain guys on different teams with long hair and look up if they're a hitter, they're batting 190. And I remember I'd turn to guys and go, man, if I was batting 190, you have to cut your hair. You don't deserve it. Or a guy with a 6 ERA, man, if I had a 6 ERA, I'd cut my hair right now. And I started off that 2018 season with it had to be a 10 or 11. It was bad. And I just woke up one Sunday and just went and cut my hair. So I said, I don't deserve it right now. And it's worn its luck out. So let's go ahead and get rid of it.
What were some of the reactions like when people kind of saw you for the first time without, people call you Thor for your first year in Somerset without kind of that trademark look? What were the reactions like?
Some people were pretty disappointed. Some of the fans were, it feels like. Even up to last year, some fans were still saying, you cut your hair, why'd you cut your hair? And there's that. But the teammates, I gave positive feedback. Guys were kind of weirded out. They double take or didn't notice me, recognize me at first. So, but it was cool. It was just cool. When things were going that bad, to change something up, it really does flick a switch mentally for you. So kind of something that had to be done.
Yeah, of course we have to get into the perfect game, and you and I have kind of always had that running gag that I seem to miss some of your starts, and of course I missed that one. You've had so much time to reflect on that outing, and when you do, I guess what kind of comes to mind?
No, man, it was crazy. Went by very fast, it feels like, when I look back at that night. Warming up felt good. Like I say, it felt pretty good, but nothing crazy. Like, I didn't feel completely different. And I think it was the first game throwing to a computerized strike zone, so I think, honestly, that relaxed me. And with the Ducks, they were in swing mode anyway. Yeah. So I was saying, you know what, if you put it on the black, it's going to be a strike. And so I was just trying, that's all I was really focused on. And just as the game went on, just started feeling better and better, and all the pitches were coming out perfect. And it's just, we weren't scoring, and that's tough. I mean, can't blame anybody. Guys were making plays, and you look back and you're like, man, I wish we would have scored. If we would have just scored, man, that would have been insane to just celebrate. Or if Ullman, and then, that ninth inning, that ball gets out, he flew out to the warning track. If my catcher would have hit a walk-off home run in the ninth, that would have been insane. Yeah. So those are the kind of things that kind of run through your head is what if that would have happened, but it's a night where, you're not going to go 10 innings at 109 pitches and keep pitching, and it just didn't make sense. It's just a wild night. It was a perfect outing, and definitely indifferent. It's got an indifferent feel to it when you really look at all the details, but, 9 perfect innings, no one can take that away, and I'm definitely really proud of that.
Yeah, there's so much confusion, I guess, still with the end of it and what it should be called and what it shouldn't be called, and I know you consider it to be a perfect outing and a perfect game. Does it kind of, I guess in retrospect, does it kind of piss you off the way that the things kind of ended, or I guess didn't end with it, that you were kind of, I guess my words, not yours, kind of cheated out of a chance to get it done?
You got some weird rules, but everybody's playing by that rule, the extra inning rule. And honestly, even if that rule didn't exist, what if I go out there in the 10th and give up a base hit up the middle, or like the hit that was given up? Well, a chopper over the third baseman's head that scores the run. There's a lot of what ifs or what could have happened, but I had the ball for 9 innings and I did what I could, and I know the guys were busting their asses to try and score a run. Like those guys, I mean, seeing their faces after the game and how disappointed they were about not scoring and how much they were upset with themselves for not getting me a run I almost felt bad for them. Like, you don't got to feel like that. I know you guys are trying. Like, I can tell. Like, hitting's hard. That's why, every once in a while you run into a no-hitter or a perfect game. Hitting's very difficult. So that's the toughest part about that is, it would have been very fun for all of us, the whole team, to celebrate that moment. But looking back on it, it is what it is. 9 perfect innings, like I said. And guys, I want to say it's not a perfect game. Well, it was not a perfect setup. So, yeah. It's baseball. And then it kind of sums up the career there. He's 9 perfect innings. You did what you could do. And that's all.
Yeah, I'd heard some guys talking to some guys on Somerset last year say that not getting the win in that game for you or for a team in general kind of maybe was a bit of a turning point for the way things went in the second half. And obviously you can't really speak to that too much individually, but from a team perspective, did it feel that way at all, that maybe things started to go a little bit downhill from that point?
I think I guess that kind of was a turning point. It kind of magnified what was happening. We weren't hot at that moment, but I think that started to put a lot of pressure on guys. Like, wow, we just had a guy do this and didn't get a win, or however it was looked at. That was a turning point, and that's when guys, I think, started pressing a little bit. You try to relax and try to just do what you've been doing, but it's tough to ignore some of that noise, and then all the other stuff that was going on. That was when some of the wackier rules kind of started to take fold, and you got guys, instead of worrying about the game of baseball, they're worrying about how they're getting cheated out of at bats or cheated out of earned runs. Or there was just a lot that started, and the frustration, and some guys just straight up left and said, I'm not doing this anymore. I think it just became one of the weirdest vibes in a locker room, and I don't think we were the only team in the league dealing with that. But that was a turning point that day, I think, and that's when things started to turn into not so much of a fun year.
Yeah. It would be impossible to talk to you about your career without bringing up Australia as well. I know you had been there for a couple seasons and playing winter ball there, but just this one in particular, with everything that was going on in the country at the time with the fires and all that, how unique, challenging, different of an experience was that for you?
Oh man, going back to Australia, it was just with a 2.5 year absence. It was awesome. Felt like I never left. But one of the best countries in the world. I had a lot of fun over there, and they're very laid back, great country. But there was a lot going on over there, and I think it was maybe a month that I was over there. The whole country was on fire, and it seemed like nobody knew about it. I remember me and Liam were talking about it because Liam O'Sullivan joined me over there.
Yeah,
we were like, man, this whole country's on fire, and nobody knows. Like, it's just nowhere. It's nowhere in the news. There was some other stuff going on in the news that people were talking about, and then finally it was that video came out with the woman saving the koala from the fire, and that's when it really caught traction. We actually played a game, or a series down in Canberra where the fires were pretty bad, and we were getting some crosswind. It's a really, really bad air quality exposure. We were playing in hazardous air for 2 or 3 nights, and it was something that a lot of guys didn't, you never had to deal with that, and you don't even know how bad it is for you. It wasn't until one of the guys' wives, who was a nurse, was telling us how harmful it is to us, where we really started to raise concern, and some of the games ended up getting canceled. But it was just a weird winter out there with all that going on, for sure. And then right at the end of the season, the coronavirus outbreak happens in China, and we travel our last trip to New Zealand in January on China Airways, and that was a little bit nerve-wracking, But a lot of stuff happened over there while I was over there before I got to come home, and then here it all is now. Now that I'm home, it's all come to the States.
Yeah, I do want to ask you about your team for the upcoming season. But I do kind of want to get into that as well. Kind of your preparation process. It feels like this would be really when you'd kind of be able to really get ramped up for the upcoming season, and everything is really uncertain right now with what's going on. How has that kind of affected you and what you're looking to do to get ready for the season?
Yeah, I was hitting strides in the weight room. Came back and started lifting weights, and then everything gets canceled and put on hold. So I haven't been in the gym in 2 weeks, and doing air squats, jumping jacks, and push-ups really isn't going to cut it. So, going for runs and doing towel drills. I still haven't picked up a ball because, honestly, I don't think we're playing baseball this year. So I'm waiting. I'm doing all the things that I can keep my body ready, keep it balanced, keep mechanics polished without having to pick up a ball, because I don't know. I think we're going to get some notice here, which we should find something out in a couple weeks about how far it's going to get pushed back or if we're going to play. But until that comes, I think I'm taking an off season at the moment and waiting to see what happens.
So I asked you about a backup plan before. I guess I kind of have to ask you about that again. If there is no season, what do you do?
Right. Yeah, that's what I've been trying to figure out. It really depends on what we can do, because I think that's the issue, is how much of this is going to have to go away before it's okay to do anything or to go anywhere or to have a regular job. Because, there's no work here anyway. So, I could do lessons off to the side, or I've been thinking about going to finish school or do a different school, maybe fire school or something like that, just to kind of get set up for after baseball.
Sure. Which
is something you could do easily in these few months. Also thought about applying to go on like Big Brother or something, be on a TV show. I don't know. I think that's completely unlikely, but I almost almost filled out an application because we've been watching that in the downtime. So
do you think?
I don't know. I really don't know what to do.
You think Publix might take you back?
Oh man,
I did my research.
I don't even know how you knew that. But yeah, my brother's a manager at Publix. I guess I could apply there and get something, but I'd rather do kind of a warehouse thing, which is kind of what they need right now. But like I said, even now, going outside and being a part of the population, I don't know if I want to do all that. Apparently you should be fine if you get this at my age, but it still wouldn't be any fun. So I think I'm going to just kind of see how it plays out in the next few weeks. But yeah, that would be an option. Just got to do something because I need, at least one more winter and maybe another summer of baseball before it's time to go ahead and start the real world.
Yeah. So under the premise that there will be a season, talk to me about the decision to leave Somerset. I know you loved it there. Obviously, there were some issues with the way things were going from a league standpoint, but talk to me about the decision to go to Cleburne for the upcoming season.
Oh, man. Well, obviously, love Somerset, wanted to be there, would retire there, would play 3 more years there. But they have this agreement that's it's a very gray agreement, and there's not a whole lot being discussed with the players in that aspect. So after what we went through in that second half, I wasn't going to go through that again. It has nothing to do with Somerset Patriots, and that's the saddest part. I really love it there. So it was time to move on and go to a different league. So obviously I reached out to a bunch of the American Association teams and fielded a bunch of offers and was really just kind of weighing options on living situations and all that. Just really, really was very happy with the GM over there, Josh Robertson with Cleburne, and awesome guy. Really, really enjoyed talking to him and the setup, the host family setup that I'll have there. And as far as the league goes, being in warm weather, it was just kind of that was the place that kept coming up. So that was where I chose to go.
Yeah, you were obviously very vocal about a lot of the changes last year, and I know the Atlantic League was trying to sell things in terms of how MLB was looking at things and the different rules and the automated strike zone and stuff like that. I guess going to a different league where you're not going to have to deal with all that, is it going to be refreshing in a sense? Yeah,
it was. Well, going back to Australia and pitching with a human umpire again, where and playing by you're actually allowed to pick off to first base. That was it was crazy, and explaining to some of those guys that didn't play in the Atlantic League what was going on. You'd say, "Oh man, hey, that guy can run to first base right there in the Atlantic League if that ball gets by the catcher." Oh well. And they just it was crazy. And the more we talked about it to guys, the more it was like, man, I can't do that again. So it was refreshing in that sense. So definitely being in a league where it's not happening will be refreshing for me because the allure to an MLB organization is not there for me anymore. So the positives to going by the rules in the Atlantic League will give you more MLB exposure. But for a guy like me, that's not going to happen. I've pitched well in that league. I've pitched well in other leagues, and I haven't gotten a call from an MLB team. So that's not really going to sell me on the week-to-week changes. So I just got to try and do what's going to be best for my career. What's best for my career is to put up as good of numbers as I possibly can as a pitcher to get a job in winter ball or a job overseas. So with a couple of years left, maybe that's kind of the direction I needed to go in. So like I said, I hear we were nearing, if all this wasn't going on, we'd be nearing time for Somerset to start cranking up, and that would definitely be sad because I'd be seeing some of the guys' social media stuff with all the the dinners that they do, and getting back out there with everybody, and that would definitely would have been a tough time.
Yeah, I think the last thing I really have for you is, I don't think if there is a season, American Association, Atlantic League, anywhere that things would line up to where it could happen this year, but if the stars did align, would you ever consider coming back?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love Somerset. And that's something that it's just like, the American Association season, if it was a normal season, would end before the Atlantic League.
Yeah.
And obviously that'd be at a time where all the rules are already set out. You kind of know what you're getting, and you can look at it and say, hey, I can go make some starts. I can go try and help win some playoff games because it's a place I love and it's an organization that deserves a championship. So yeah, I definitely would be open to that in the future, and really that's the biggest thing. None of us know what the future holds, and especially now. So obviously, I would definitely take that chance, but we'll just see how everything goes.
Well, Tease, I'm going to miss our chats outside of the clubhouse in Bridgewater, and I'd love to ask you about your favorite Mike Ashmore road story, but damn it, we are all out of time and we can't get to it. But shoot, man, I do appreciate your time over the past couple of years, man. It has been an absolute blast getting to know you. It's an honor to call you a friend, and please kick ass wherever you go down in the future, man, because you're just a fantastic human being, a fantastic pitcher, and I just wish you all the best, man.
I really appreciate all that, man. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, thank you so much for checking out the 4th installment of the Untitled Mike Ashmore podcast. I thought about shooting some big, fancy ending to this, but if I'm stuck in the house, I'm stuck in the house, right? So here we are, and we're getting ready for the 5th show. Let me know who you guys want on. I'm open to suggestions. We might not be able to get everybody you guys want, but shoot me some names, and we'll certainly try. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks again to Rick Teasley, who is just an outstanding human being. And I know I say that a lot, but I wouldn't have anybody on here who I didn't feel that way about. So great guy, great pitcher. I wish him absolutely all the best going forward. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of buzz about some of his comments, and maybe even some of mine too. Yeah, let me know who you guys want in the next show, and we'll try to get it done. In the meantime, stay safe, stay inside, and wash your damn hands.